Session 39 of the Law of One, and let's get into what I would call the science of metaphysics and some more about energy centers. Really cool stuff there. Let's begin. We have a sort of mixed session here today, and again it's going to be another short one. I believe I'm going to be able to cover it all in just one part, and there is going to be some questions at the beginning that I skipped. I'll tell you about that in a little bit, and there's also the end question. I think is one of the most fascinating, so we're going to get into that towards the end, so make sure you watch the whole thing, because I think the most practical part of this whole session is at the end when they talk about the energy centers. So before getting into the introduction though, some of you have asked me about the music in the background, and I've said it in a couple of videos in the past, but I think this is a really good time to mention my friend Colby from Dream State Logic, who is the person behind the music that I use. The story behind, how I got to use his music and how we created this friendship is beyond the scope of the video. But the reason why I'm mentioning him is because just recently, as I record this video, he released his new album and it's available for download. He puts his content for free, which I think is amazing. I love his music, and obviously I use it. It became like the theme of the Law of One series that I'm doing. Dream State Logic is the music that I will use, hopefully, for the rest of the series until I cover the whole raw material. And I listen to him also, his music, while I'm working sometimes. It's just very peaceful. What you're listening to it right now is The Other Earth. That's the name of the album too. So again, I'm just sharing the love that my friend Colby creates in his own channeling. I call it channeling of vibrations of the universe, the cosmos, into vibrations that are translated to our ears as music. Harmonious music. It's very harmonious. So in any case, go check it out. I have a link in the description as usual to his website, to his content. Go download it if you want. Of course, it's free, like I said. You can have a contribution, just like you can contribute to this channel, as donations. Freely given, freely receiving. I believe in that. So, any case, thank you, Colby, for making this music. I know you watch content too. So, yeah, that's it. All right, so let's get into the session itself. I skipped 3 questions that are at the beginning because they are part of the personal material. Like I've said and emphasized in the past, I don't cover things that I think are not that important, but I'll mention this ones because they're usually questions about if somebody can visit in the next weekend when we do the next session, or of that sort. Some of them I do include, but in any case, the whole deal. Here, the ones that I skipped are about Carla. Again, see, we know about this already at this point. Carla was kind of weak. This is the reason why the sessions are short at this point. And Carla ingested LSD, and that made her a little bit weak. And that's why she was continuing to have a little weakness. So the first question is actually talking about that. And the one thing I'll mention, this will become a lot more relevant as we go down the sessions, is that at this point the negative beings were sabotaging the works that they were doing, the channeling, and they were trying to do it as much as possible. If they couldn't mentally, they would do it through her physical weakness, and because the LSD ingestion caused some physical weakness, or let's say weakness in herself in general, so they would attack her physical weakness. And that's what they talk about at the beginning. Ra says that it's very fortunate, of course, that they have this supporting group and all that stuff. There's another question, 39.2, where they get into, Don wants to know if there's anything that Carla can do, to improve, I believe, her condition and get, well faster. And there's an answer that I actually like. I would just discuss a little bit, where Ra was always saying, get some exercise, Carla, basically. Get some physical exercise. And, she would, that's her walking and all that stuff. But I think they meant, more physical exercise, whatever that may be. Maybe lifting some weights. That's one way of exercising the muscles in a different way than just walking. We didn't have much knowledge back then about how to exercise the body, but in any case, I don't know. I think that's what Ra was referring to, but also maybe some stretching and some other stuff. I don't know. I'm speculating unnecessarily. And the other thing was sexual intercourse, which is, as we have explored already, there is sexual energy transfer that helps a lot. There's the vital energy of the individual. So it's funny, I'll just read one part where they say that they say the requirements of this instrument's distortions towards what you would call ethics have an effect upon this latter activity being sexual intercourse, and the former being physical exercise. So I guess there was some sort of ethics on Carla on not having enough sex or something like that, but they do say that they would have after these advice or this advice that Ra gave, then they would engage into more Jim and Carla. So there's a whole story behind how Don and Carla had a relationship. They were actually married, not formally, but they had some sort of bond, but they wouldn't have sex. That was just Don's preference and so on. So I'm thinking that I remember Scott Mandelker saying that maybe Ra meant that they could have sex, Carla and Don could have sex, and that would improve. And this actually makes sense because Don would be able to transfer different energy to Carla than what Jim would do, and this would have to do with his vibration and his loving nature. But all that stuff aside, that obviously, apparently didn't happen. I don't think so. In any case, I just wanted to mention that. The last thing they would say is just a question that Ra said again, like, we don't want to infringe free will here, but it's about the length and how often they can do the sessions. But Ra did say, maybe take a day or two in between, something like that, and in the mornings it was the best time. So that's the questions, the 3 questions that I'm not going to cover. They're kind of long, but that's mainly what they talk about. Again, you can go read this in the lawofone.info website, which I think is phenomenal. It's where I get my information from. And also in your books, they're available to buy, or you can download them for free. You should have them anyway. So this would be in book 5 if you have the originals. It would be in session 39 if you have the raw material. And that's it. With that out of the way, I don't think I have anything else for introduction, and we can go into the first question that I have, which is question number 4. Don says, what does Don say? Alright, he says, I will then continue now with the general questioning, attempting to find a way into a line of questioning which will get us into an area of understanding non-transient functions which may be worked upon by us and others to raise our consciousness. And I may make several mistakes here in trying to find a way into this questioning. I apologize in advance in my questioning, if my questioning is misleading. I love Don. I notice that everything seems, or most of the basic things seem, to be divided into units which total 7. In looking at a transcript by Herring Puhrig from the 9, I found a statement by the 9 where they say, if we get 7 times the electrical equivalent of the human body, then it would result in 7 of the mass of electricity. Could you explain this? I would love Rod to explain this, and we get a sort of explanation because I have no idea what Don is talking about there. Ra says, to explain this is beyond the abilities of your language. Yay. We should, however, make an attempt to address this concept. So, they cannot explain it. with our language. It's beyond that. But they will try to address the concept. So here we go. As you are aware, in the beginning of the creations set up by each logos, there are created the complete potentials, both electrical in the sense of the one you call Larsen, and metaphysical. This metaphysical electricity is as important in an understanding, shall we say, of the statement as is the concept of electricity. So we're going to get here into the metaphysical side of things, and electricity being the analog here in space-time. That's what they're talking about. There are those potentials. They're saying that at the beginning, when the creation is manifested by the logos, then all potentials are there. And there is created the potential of electrical, as I guess in the sense of space-time, and then metaphysical, time-space. And then they say this metaphysical electricity is as important in an understanding of this statement as is the concept of electricity. So understanding electricity and metaphysic electricity, let's call it that way. Well, they said it that way. To understanding this concept or this statement. Again, I don't know what the other question was, the 9. We're going to get more into the 9 and we're going to explore a little bit that, but let's keep reading what Ra says. They say, this concept, as you are aware, deals with potentiated energy. The electron has been said to have no mass, but only a field. Others claim a mass of infinitesimal measure. Both are correct. The true mass of the potentiated energy is the strength of the field. This is also true metaphysically. Alright, so here I'm going to try to understand this. This is really, borderline what I can understand with my limited physics. And, try to make sense of it. So, this concept, as you're aware, deals with potentiated energy. Alright, so, as we can understand from the statement, the concept that they mentioned that if you reach, a certain point, then you have the mass of the universe or something like that. I forgot what it says. But Ra is saying, this deals with potentiated energy. The electron has been said to have no mass, but only a field. And others claim a mass of infinitesimal measure. So it seems like quantum physics and our Newtonian physics that wants to have particles or just a field of energy. And Ra says both are correct. Yes, of course. It depends on how you want to observe it. You want to see it as a cloud of energy, which is the electron, then yes. If you want to measure its point where it is, then yeah, you're going to see it as, a point. Very small, because that's just a probability. The true mass of the potentiated energy is the strength of the field. That makes sense. This is also true metaphysically. So the true mass of the potentiated energy is the strength of the field. So the field is going to determine the true mass, which again, for our Newtonian physics, that's kind of, it itches us because, oh my God, how can I just call it a mass if it's a field? It's supposed to be a particle, blah, blah, blah. We're only seeing one side of the coin here. So again, and this is my limited physics. I may be wrong into, getting into that, but that's how I see it. The true mass of the potentiated energy is the strength. Okay, so this is true also metaphysically. So now metaphysically, we know that there is a field, and that true mass of that field is important. And I know this has to do with spiritual mass. I think. Let's keep reading. Spiritual mass we have covered before, and it's going to make more sense maybe here. Ra says, however, in your present physical system of knowledge, it is useful to take the mass number of the electron in order to do work that you may find solutions to other questions about the physical universe. Of course, it's useful physics. In such a way, you may conveniently consider each density of being to have a greater and greater spiritual mass. Very good. In the same way, I would say. In such a way, it's like, similarly. The mass increases, shall we say, significantly, but not greatly, until the gateway density. In this density, the summing up, the looking backwards. In short, all the useful functions of polarity have been used, therefore the metaphysical electrical nature of the individual grows greater and greater in spiritual mass. So, as you may conveniently consider each density of being having a greater and greater spiritual mass. Let's call spiritual mass what I call also the evolution, spiritual evolution, or I call it also spiritual time, because even though time is this construct that we have because we sense the movement of things in the physical universe, then there is what I call spiritual time, which is again spiritual evolution. You need time or evolution, you can use time and evolution here interchangeably, to reach a certain point, and that point is infinity. That is the union with the Creator. And mass increases, spiritual mass increases over time, over spiritual time, if that makes sense. Over the time, over the evolution, time evolution of the spirit, time goes by, or evolution goes by, and we accrue or we amass this spiritual mass, this density of mass. This also makes sense, densities of consciousness. We have higher densities of consciousness because we have higher density of light being absorbed and understood and digested, let's call it that way. We are able to navigate higher densities of information, of light, love. So the more we get into those densities, then the more we need to have a higher consciousness. That's just how it works. And so yeah, the mass increases significantly, but not greatly, until the gateway density, because the gateway density is this is 7th density. This is where we start getting closer to the Creator. And in terms of consciousness, you have to have a view of the creation that is it's whole, it's complete. There is no separation, of course. That's beyond, that's actually at the point of 6th density. You start learning, these are the lessons of 6th density. Unity, contemplation as a whole of the creation, no division. Everything is perfect, everything is one. And as you get closer to that perspective, then you can start seeing the universe as just one infinite thing. Your consciousness just gets to that point. So they say, in short, all the useful functions of polarity have been used, of course. The functions of polarity being experience. Polarity is how we can perceive experience. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any sort of experience. So all the functions of experience are, gone. We don't need polarity anymore. To see the universe this way, you cannot have polarity. The metaphysical electrical nature of the individual grows greater and greater in spiritual mass. Now, I love what they mention here, and again, I hope my limited physics are able to decode this so it makes sense. Ra says, for an analog, one may observe the work of the one known as Albert, who posits the growing to infinity of mass as this mass approaches the speed of light. Thus, the 7th density being, the completed being, the Creator who knows itself, accumulates mass and compacts into the one Creator once again. Okay, I just, something just clicked that I'll mention at the end and conclusion of this kind of convoluted question. All right, so the analog that they're using is, Einstein said that to accelerate something to the speed of light, we need infinite mass. Therefore, we can't accelerate anything to the speed of light. Only light can travel at that speed. So Ra is using the example that Einstein used, that growing to infinity of mass as this mass approaches the speed of light. Of course, to reach the speed of light. And see the beauty here, I'm just being poetical, but if for us to reach the light, we must grow infinite in spirituality. It's terrible poetry, but you get the idea. For us to reach light, we need to, the light at the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the densities. That light, you require infinite spiritual mass. And spiritual mass is accrued by consciousness, by you understanding the creation, by you. This is why planet Earth is such an amazing school, beyond schools, a university. It's the most difficult one, they say, because we have such a multiplicity. In fact, we don't even know where to begin, to start studying this fascinating world, of politics and governments and, sexual, deviations of what really is, and, our money system and so on. I mean, there's so much to study here, because that makes us see the creation. Again, polarity, what do they say? Polarity ceased to... Imagine if we could process all of the polarity here on Earth. What is the universe going to offer us? Like, we're going to get into another planet. It's going to be like, the big, problem here is that they are bartering, and we're like, come on, I survived the 2008 economic collapse in planet Earth. What are you talking about? It's going to be so easy, So it ceases to see the catalyst that we could possibly process, and I'm just being, goofy right now, but the catalyst that we can possibly explore in other planets is going to be like, meh, I have a master's degree in this, man. Bro, come on. You know where I come from? You see my resume? Come from planet Earth. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be like that. I mean, it's a goofy way, again, of just explaining how you can accrue spiritual mass and consciousness by simply, processing polarity here, processing experiences. Catalyst is the biggest thing. They mentioned catalyst here too. So, all right. All that aside, hope you enjoyed that, because I did. I made a connection. I gotta read again what Don said. Physical, this metaphysical electricity is the 7-on thing. What do they say? If we get 7 times the electrical equivalent of the human body, then it would result in the 7 of the mass of electricity. Oh my god, now it makes sense, see? If we get 7 times the electrical equivalent of the human body, for one, I see Ra is mentioning or saying, 7 meaning the 7 densities. So if we can get the 7 densities of experience, then it would result in 7-on of the mass of electricity. I don't know how Ra decoded this. I mean, they're phenomenal, I guess. Ra. But yeah, it would result in 7-on of the mass of electricity. So I guess that's what they mean, because the 7-on would be the complete perception of the creation, I guess, in electricity. Mass of electricity being metaphysical electricity. I mean, I don't know, maybe just Ra made it up and say like, alright, whoever made that up, we're just gonna fill it in with something else that makes sense, and to me this makes sense, so that's it. If that wasn't complicated enough, take a look at this. Alright, so Don is gonna question this. I wanted to just look at the screen. And Don says, then in the equation that I have here on this page, could M sub I believe, refer to spiritual mass? I am assuming, is this correct? And it gives a formula, which is mass, I'm assuming. Spiritual mass, but in this case, I don't know. I don't know if he made this. It's there's the speed of light there, m sub o c squared divided by the roots of 1 minus velocity square by, I forgot what c is. I mean, whatever that is, Ra says, yeah, that's correct. That is correct, whatever that is. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I really don't. If somebody of you know who are into physics, please let me know in the comments. Help a brother out. Alright, so Don says the next question. Thank you. Can you tell me, can you interpret a transmission from the 9 where they say CH is a principle which is the revealing principle of knowledge and law? Can you tell me what that principle is? Here we go again. Ra says the principle so veiled in that statement is but the simple principle of the constant or creator and the transient or the incarnate being and the yearning existing between the two, one for the other, in love and light amidst the distortions of free will acting upon the illusion-bound entity. See, oh my god, I'm gonna stay here for a couple of minutes. There's so much to get out of this, and it's helpful stuff. It's not just us trying to decode what Ra and Don were talking about. Yes, we're gonna get into that so it pacifies our minds, if that's a thing, which I doubt it is. But also, we're gonna get into some of the things I consider, this is just me, this is human Gabriel here talking, that we are confronting in the spiritual awakening that's happening on Earth. First, let's go to the question where the channeling or the information is that this is channel information, by the way, by Henry Puharic. I don't know how his name is pronounced, but they were channeling the 9, I guess. I don't know if this is the Council of 9. I don't know if they mention it. We'll see. But it seems very obscure, and that's the word I want to use, obscure. I mean, imagine if you can tell somebody who is, into metaphysics and stuff, and you say, you know what, CH is a principle which is the revealing principle of knowledge and law. And you would be like, what do you mean? Could you explain that? I mean, even Don was like, can you tell me what this principle is? What is this? CH. What is CH? See, to me, that's creator and human. I don't know. Couldn't it be easier to say the creator and the human, is the principle, which is the revealing principle, the connection between the two? Because that's what Ra is saying here. They're saying, all right, this principle so veiled or so confusing and obscure, it's, in their nice terms, Ra's nice terms, they say, is but the simple principle. See how they explain it so simple. The constant and the transient. The constant is infinity. It's the creator. Infinity is constant. The creator, it's constant. It doesn't change. It's there. It is what it is. And the transient is us, the incarnated being, the human. And the yearning that exists between the two. We want to be with the creator. The creator wants us to arrive to it. Him, she, whatever. One for the other. In love and light amidst the distortions of free will acting upon the illusion-bound entity. Let me repeat that again. In love and light, meaning the beauty, the poetry, the dance of this creation, which is fun, it's entertaining. It's the most amazing dream you could ever have. It's the most amazing plethora of creations within the creation, an infinity of creations. That's what they're referring to. Amidst the distortions of free will acting upon the illusion-bound entity, because we have free will. It's not like the creator made us and, all right, this is how you're gonna function. Crack, 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 and it gives us that. I forgot what they're called, but those toys that crank something. I forgot what they're called again. Leave me a comment if you know what they mean or what's the name is. But the old toys, you crank the little thing and it just starts walking. No, the creator didn't do that. The creator said, I'm going to create something and I'm going to give free will. You do what you want. Let me see how I behave in that scenario. That's it. Dreams are the same thing. Your imagination is the same thing. You imagine things. You create yourself there and you start, doing all kinds of adventures and, whatever, you want to do in your imagination. Planets, create worlds, universe destroys them, whatever. And, that's how it is. And that is the connection that they make. It's just a simple principle that the creator wants, us to have fun and become what we are. Clear distortions. If anything, this is not about realizing anything. It's just clearing the distortions. It doesn't let you see yourself as the creator. So, all right, so my small rant here, short rant, is going to be about how things are hyperinflated in the spiritual community. This is not bashing against anybody in particular, of course, but you can see this too. If you are involved in some of, an infinity of, different concepts and definitions and ideas of, who you are and what your life, your past lives, mean to you, and how you can correct, this ancestral problem that you have because you are this. I mean, I don't want to say anything in particular, but there's so many things out there that they're not wrong. I'm not going to say they're wrong. They're just obscuring and very confusing to the entity that just wants to know. They don't want to spend their whole life studying this. This is why Hinduism was, to me, refined into Zen Buddhism, which is a snap. You realize, and you're like, oh, okay, I don't need 5 incarnations to become a monk, so I can become enlightened and then become, Buddha, rainbow body. No. It's now. You can do it now. And, that may sound, like a little bit, what's it called, instant gratification. But yeah, we are in that time. If you want to believe, of course, and this is the beauty of the creation, if you want to believe that you have to go and suffer for this, then yes, you can do that. You're not limited by it. You have free will. But there is the short path. There is the middle way. And it's not this, convoluted, again, way of this thicket of views, as Gautama used to call it. It's not. It's a simple thing. That's what Ra, to me, it's so, you see the difference between obscure information and complex information is Ra in these channelings. These obscure ways of, we don't even know who channeled this. It could be a negative entity. It could be a positive entity without enough channel broadband, to give the information. So it comes out so obscure. That's why the raw material is so revered, because they were clear, crystal clear with everything as much as possible. And they were always emphasizing, we're trying our best. Watch session 37 if you don't know what I mean. They were always, paramount about this. So yeah, oh my God, I can go on a rant here for a while, because I am one who is very practical and very simple, and that's why I love Buddhism. To me, Buddhism has the simplest way of realizing who you are. That's it. Anything else is just you playing with the distortions and saying, no, I think the universe is very complicated, so I need to have an infinity of time navigating this. By all means, do it. You have free will. I'm not saying that's wrong. I am only saying that it doesn't have to be that way. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be that obscure. It is that simple. But we like to complicate it. So, all right. End of rant. Continuing with session 39.7. That's where we at. Don says, what's the reason that the Nine transmitted this principle in this form? What's the reason for this? The first distortion? Ra says, this is incorrect. Question 8. Don says, can you tell me why they gave the principle in such a veiled form then? Ra says, the scribe is most interested in puzzles and equations. Boom! Okay, here's the answer. Whoever was the channel, I don't know if it was Henry or it was somebody else, they're very interested. You see, one thing that happens with channelings, not the raw material, because remember, Carla wasn't there. Carla was out for lunch on those sessions. She wasn't there. There's nobody home, only Ra. And she was in a complete trance with that I don't believe anybody has achieved that I know. And this is what Ra needed to communicate so precisely. Why? Because Carla's mind wasn't there to distort. And that's what we do. When we channel, and anybody who's channeled, I haven't, but you can see that everybody knows that they're conscious. They're not unconscious. And the information just goes through them and they verbalize it. By doing that, it's like going through a filter. When you go through a filter, your stuff is going to filter as well. If you have, because we all have, our mind is cluttered. So some of that clutter is going to come out. Back in the days, in the 50s, I forgot, Brown's book for channeling, I think it was called. They realized that it's the biases of the channeler that would create some differentiation in the messages received. Spirituality, for example, religion, or some other biases would filter out, but the information was the same. In any case, in this particular example, the scribe is most interested in puzzles and equations. And what Don asked before is the reason why this channeling or this information was given so obscure. Was it because of free will? Meaning that the first distortion is free will, preserving free will. And Ross isn't like, no. There are many ways basically that you can say the same thing, simple enough, but it's not, and it's not distorting free will. So the reason why they did this, because the scribe is most interested in puzzles and equations. So, hey, you ask and you get, what you're supposed to receive. You ask and you receive. Ask and thou shalt receive, right? Question 9. So, Don says, the 9 describe themselves as the 9 principles of God. Can you tell me what they mean by that? And here goes Ra again. This is also a veiled statement. The attempt is made to indicate that the 9 who sit upon the council are those representing the Creator, the one Creator, just as there may be 9 witnesses in a courtroom testifying for one defendant. The term principle has this meaning also. The desire of the scribe may be seen in much of this material to have affected the manner of its presentation, of course, just as the abilities and preferences of this group determine the nature of this content. Beautiful. The difference lies in the fact that we are as we are. Thus, we may either speak as we will or not speak at all. This demands a very tuned, shall we say, group. Here it is. So, yeah, I think this puts a lot into context. 9 principles of God. See? 9 principles of God. Okay, so what does that mean? 9 principles of God. Oh, God, no, I need to express more. No, they're simply representatives. The Council of 9. The Council of 9 are just simply representatives. Guess what? You are a representative of the Creator here too. So, in a broader perspective, they are representatives of God. Ra is a representative of God. Genghis Khan is another one. They're all representatives of God. It's just how we integrate our view of them in our consciousness, so we can see them as just one. Very simple. Okay, so yeah, they explain the whole thing, and then they say the desire of the scribe may be seen in much of this material to have affected the manner of its presentation. Basically, the desire of the scribe, the one that wanted the material, affected the manner of its presentation, being very obscure. Just as the abilities and preferences of this group, meaning Carla, Jim, and Don, determine the nature of this contact. Because of them, and Ra emphasized this a lot, their direction of service was so crystalline clear that they were able to channel this information. If some of them were distorted into another, sort of whatever it may be, then they would not have had that successful channeling. So, thus we may either speak as we will. Oh, I love how they say the difference lies in the fact that we are as we are. Listen, I am who I am. Thus we may either speak as we will or not speak at all. And we know how Ra sometimes says no. No, we won't. We have nothing to say, basically. They couldn't exercise silence. What do they call it in Buddhism? The thunderous silence. Because they would think like, oh, is Ra there? But they would just be very succinct. This demands a very tuned, shall we say, group, which is praise to Carl, Jim, and Don. Thank you very much. Okay, so that, I see. Alright, so Don says, I sense that there is fruitful ground for investigation of our development and tracing the evolution of the bodily energy centers, because these 7 energy centers, or centers, seem to be linked with all of the 7s that I spoke of previously and be central to our development. Could you describe the process of evolution of these bodily energy centers, starting with the most primitive form of life to have them? Alright, so Ra, now we're getting to energy centers. This is the cool part. Ra says, this material has been covered previously to some extent. Yes, we have. Look on the previous sessions, you'll find a lot of energy centers information there. There's also an asterisk there. If you go and check the law of one.info, you'll see there's a reference there for all the material that they have covered, and I'm not gonna go into that. Therefore, we shall not repeat information upon which rays dwell in first and second density and the wherefores of this, but rather attempt to enlarge upon this information. So basically, they're not going to repeat anything, they're just going to enlarge or expand on the information. The basic pivotal points of each level of development, that is, each density beyond second, may be seen to be as follows. Alright, so here we're going to get into the energy centers. And we're going to get some new material here. Ra says, firstly, the basic energy of so-called red ray. This ray may be understood to be the basic strengthening ray for each density. It shall never be condescended to as less important or productive of spiritual evolution, for it is the foundation ray. The next foundation ray is yellow. This is the great stepping stone ray. At this ray, the mind-body potentiates to its fullest balance. The strong red-orange-yellow triad springboards the entity into the center ray of green. This is again a basic ray, but not a primary ray. All right, so now we're getting distinctions in terms of the rays. And you see the practical thing that we can get out of this, because it seems confusing, but it's not. The practical thing that we can get out of this is, what do these terms mean in general in the evolution of the spirit? Because, see, they say, firstly, the basic energy of so-called red ray. So red ray is a basic energy. We can understand why it's basic. Without it, we wouldn't have anything. You know, the light starts shining from the bottom here. Prana goes first through the root chakra, Malkuth. This ray may be understood to be the basic strengthening ray for each density, because it's not only humans, animals have it, and even first density entities must have this red ray. Remember, there are sub-densities into each density. Just like we have 7 chakras within this third density, there are 7 chakras in 4th density, 7 chakras, and so on. Sub-densities, chakras, energy centers, that's what they mean. So it shall never be condescended to as less important of productive of spiritual evolution. We must pay attention to it. This is a foundation ray. So now we know that red ray is basic and foundation. The next foundation ray is yellow. See, they skip orange. So they go into yellow. Manipura chakra. And they say the next foundation is yellow. This is the great stepping stone ray. At this ray, the mind-body potentiates to its fullest balance. I'll explain why. The strong red, orange, yellow triad springboards the entity into the center ray of green. So we need to have first the foundation of red energy center. Boom, that's it. Then the next foundation is yellow. You see, this is getting into, I believe they don't say that blue is foundation. I don't think so. But these are primary rays, just like we have primary colors in art. I remember learning primary colors is red, yellow, and blue, because they create the other colors. This becomes very beautiful. You people know this. You know, if you mix red and yellow, you get orange. That's the in between. If you mix yellow and blue, then you get green. That's the between. And if you mix blue and violet, you get indigo, I believe, and that's in between. And if you mix violet and red, what do you get? You get pink, right? Is that what it is? Oh no, if you mix blue and I may be getting this wrong. Is that right? How do you get into red? You get into red again, but if you mix red and blue, what do you get? You get purple. Yes, and that's why as we get to violet, that's the mixture. Violet is, or purple, is the mixture of red and blue. You get purple. That's because you're getting into the next octave. See how this works? It's not a linear thing. It's a circular. If you've seen, you know, the software that uses like the palette, you can see that it's a circle and it's not a straight thing. So in any case, I'm going way beyond this. In the same way, no, this is helpful. This is really helpful because it makes us understand a little bit how it progresses. And we have, okay, so the next foundation ray is yellow. The reason why yellow is a foundation is because, like they're saying, this is a great stepping stone. Why? Because here, once you crystallize your red, orange, and yellow, you go beyond the ego, beyond the physical, beyond, you know, death and all this stuff, and you go into the transcendence at this point. Then this at this rate, the mind-body potentiates to its fullest balance, because now you have balance. You have your core balance, and from there, all you can do is the springboard into the green energy center, which is unconditional love. And from there, you work in a different way. You don't work from the animal. You work from the spiritual. This is again a basic ray, but not a primary ray. That last part is confusing because they may be talking about the yellow, saying that this is a basic ray but not a primary ray, but that is not true. They were referring to the green ray. If you see, they say the strong red, orange, yellow triad springboards the entity into the center ray of green. Center, of course, green is the center of the whole chakra system. This is a basic ray, but not a primary ray. Green is a basic ray, but not a primary. So now we have green as a basic one too, but yellow is not basic. See, it gets confusing, but it's not. All right. Ra says then, this is the resource for spiritual work, green ray, of course. When green ray has been activated, we find the third primary ray being able to begin potentiation. This is blue. This is the first true spiritual ray in that all transfers are of an integrated mind, body, spirit nature. The blue ray seats the learning teachings of the spirit in each density within the mind, body complex, animating the whole, communicating to others this entirety of beingness. Okay, so once we reach, we have our foundation and foundational rays, which is red and yellow. Those are foundation because they are what we need to go into spiritual work. Spiritual work is done here, in the heart. That's the beginning, right? And then they say, when green ray has been activated, we find the third primary ray being able to begin potentiation. That is the blue ray, because as soon as we reach green, the only way to express it and to transfer it is through the blue. This is the first true spiritual ray. See, green ray is not spiritual in that sense. They say in that all transfers of an integrated mind, body, spirit nature. I know it sounds terrible, like love is not spiritual, but in terms of how the mechanics of this works, because green is receptive. You are receiving, you are perceiving the creation. Just like in orange, you are perceiving the physical world. You are in the wow of the animal. Now you're in the wow of the green love, unconditional love. See, that's how it works. Now, how do you do it? You express the animal through yellow, through the societal, to the tribal. It's expressive, it's outward. And green, again, it's internal, it's receiving. And then blue is the external of, they say, it seats the learning teachings of the spirit in each density within the mind-body complex. Of course, it's the way that you can really accrue wisdom, is what they're saying. In my interpretation, learning teachings is wisdom of the spirit in each density within the mind-body complex, animating the whole, communicating to others this entirety of beingness. So we're seeing just the progress of how, because that's what Don asked. Don asked, how do they progress or something like that. I forgot. Let me read it again. I like to be thorough. This process of evolution of these bodily energy centers. Yeah, the process of evolution in this case is just how they progress. It's the progression of them. So, the last part of Ra's answer here, and I'll give you a little conclusion. The indigo ray, though precious, is that ray worked upon only by the adept, as you would call it. It is the gateway to intelligent infinity, bringing intelligent energy through. This is the energy center worked upon in those teachings considered inner, hidden, and occult. For this ray is that which is infinite in its possibilities. As you are aware, those who heal, teach, and work for the Creator in any way, which may be seen to be both radiant and balanced, are those activities which are indigo ray. Here we get more context as to why the blue seats the learning teachings. You see, the blue is receiving from green, unconditional love of the creation, and then is also receiving, in my point of view, I may be wrong here, I'm just putting this is, caveat here, not a caveat, disclaimer, this is me interpreting it, seeing it this way. The indigo ray, if it is, let's put it this way, if they call it a gateway to intelligent infinity, we get information. We say, oh, I received a download. We seem to be working upwards all the time. So it seems like, indigo is above Blu-ray in some way. But in terms of expression, you cannot express through indigo. You have to express through the blue. That's why the blue is such an amazing ray, in that sense, because now you're getting the information from intelligent infinity. This is you're channeling infinity, and as you express it, it's not only communication, verbal communication, which I love doing, obviously, but this is also, to me, artistic expression. or music, or anything else that is an expression of how you see the universe. This is how it works. You channel. My friend Colby, who I mentioned before, I guarantee you that that music that he makes is being channeled. I mean, he says it himself in different words, but he channels that information. He is getting the vibrations of the universe, and that's how he sees it. You know, other people, Julie and her paintings, you know, that's how she sees the universe. It's all spirals, and it's all psychedelic, and it's all, you know, this beautiful mix of colors, you know, and that's how they see it. The way I express the law of one, to me, this is just how, you know, I see the universe. It's not because I study it and I compare it to text. No, this is just how I see the universe. And this is channeling through the indigo ray. You know, you have connection to that. You have your own artistic expression or simple expression. You know, we call it artistic because there's other animalistic stuff that is not artistic, I think. But it's just that ego stuff. You know, that's just not artistic to me. maybe. So yeah, as you're aware, those who heal, teach, and work for the Creator in any way which may be seen to be both radiant and balanced are those activities which are indigo ray. So how can you know, I think I got the point across. So yeah, that's the indigo ray. The indigo ray is that part that channels intelligent infinity. All right, so they don't say anything about if it's primary, foundation, or none of that stuff, because it's just not relevant to the development of the individual, the entity. It's not relevant. What's relevant is the triad, like they say, red, orange, and yellow being, you know, the springboard to activate the heart, which sees no more the animal, the physical, the transient. They see the transcendental part of the creation. And that is the beginning of the work to start saying, oh, we are all one. Let's work through our blue ray to express it. But then you also channel from the indigo. And it's like the sandwich, the spiritual sandwich between indigo and green. Blue. What am I wearing actually? Well, synchronicity. Oh, I didn't mean this. I'm wearing blue. And this is actually throat chakra blue. How cool is that? Synchronicity galore. Okay, there's one more part that I'm just gonna fly through because we know this already, especially from last session. As you're aware, Ra says, the violet ray is constant and does not figure into a discussion of the functions of ray activation in that it is the mark, the register, the identity, the true vibration of an entity. Alright, I said I was going to fly through, but there's something else that they said here, which is really cool, and I figured it out, and I saw it, and I said, yes. It's meaningless, but yes. Alright, so yeah, the violet ray is constant. It doesn't, you know, it has no function of activation or none of that stuff. It's there, you know, it has this thing. Now, check this out. Go back to session 38. I forgot what the question is. It's towards the beginning. 38.2 or something like that. I forgot. But that's when they're talking about the violet ray. I covered that, of course, last session. Go check it out, or go to the material. It's easier. And they say, if you want more explanation, then go to the video. But the material is you're gonna see this. Functions of does not figure into the discussion of the functions of ray activation in that it is the mark. The mark is the spectrograph, I think is what they call it. The spectrometer, you know, this is the combination of all the rays that they first analyzed in session 38. They said, you know, all of these are, to me, is the mark. That's what they mean there. The register, to me, is the pure violet ray, as they mention it there, because they say there are different ways to perceive the violet ray. So it is the mark, that is the spectrograph. Then the register, that's what they're saying here, that is the pure violet ray to me. The identity, which is the the red-violet combination, which I said is for harvest, that's the identity. And then the true vibration of an entity, which is, they also mention, the true vibration of an entity comes from the density of where they come from. So I had this bridge when I was reading it, and I said, I need to express it. So yes, here it is. I don't know, that's what makes sense to me. Go read it. Tell me if it makes sense to you. All right, next question. Don says, in order to clarify a little bit, I would like to ask the question, if we have a highly polarized entity polarized towards service to others, and a highly polarized entity polarized towards service to self, what would be, taking each ray, starting with red, would there be any difference in the red ray of these two entities? Ra says, this shall be the last full question of this working. There is no difference in equal strongly polarized positive and negative entities as regards red ray. You can see that Ra was already conscious, very conscious about Carla being weak, because they say this will be the last full question and they only answer it really short. So just a note there. They say this is actually cool, it's a really good question. Is there any difference between a negatively polarized, same strength? Because you may have a slightly polarized negative entity here. There's a spectrum, and then there is the fully potentiated one. Say 4 density, where you have really highly. Let's actually call it 5th density, because in 5th density you have to get close to 99%, I believe, of negative orientation. You can have only 1% of service to others. You have room for error, but it's very tiny. And then also in green or in 4 density, you can have a positively polarized entity that is 95% or so service to others, or 5th density actually. So is there a difference in the red ray? And it could be here too. And Ra says no, there is no difference in the red ray, because they're both as powerful. They're both as potentiated in that way. Like they have equal strength in polarization, positive or negative. So you can see it as electricity. How much electricity do you need to power up a 2 different, kitchens? Well, they both require the same energy. They're different. One may be black and the other one white, but they're both, they require the same energy, the same amount of strength. So that's what this means. I think it's a really good question. I don't know. All right, so Don says, is this also true of all other rays? Ra says, we shall answer briefly. You may question further another working. The negative ray pattern is the red, orange, yellow moving directly to blue. I'll explain that asterisk there. This being only used in order to contact intelligent infinity. In positively oriented entities, the configuration is even, crystallinely clear. Crystallinely clear. I don't know how to pronounce it. And of the 7-ray description. In positively oriented entities, the configuration is even, crystallinely clear, and of the 7-ray description. I don't know if I read that right. But, okay, so is this true for all the others? So no, because it's not true that it's equal. Like, you don't see them equally. I don't know what was Don's intention with this question, but I think previously, they mentioned that the negatively oriented entity, at least for graduation into 4 density, looks kind of very different, muddy, they call it, in red, orange, yellow. But in any case, they just emphasize that red, orange, yellow moving directly to blue. The asterisk there is because there is no consensus yet into if Ra made a mistake and they said, if the negative entities uses blue, because in other sessions they have said they go to indigo. But then there's also, they mention slightly in other sessions that they use blue. So we don't know. We don't know what they mean there. In any case, all we know is that they skip the heart. I believe that they actually use blue because they are wise negative entities, and they distort wisdom so they can have their way. But in any case, I don't know. That's just one part of it's unknown to us. We don't know. This is everybody in the study of this. So we all have our opinions here, basically. But it's irrelevant. This being only used in order to contact intelligent infinity. So they use blue or indigo to contact intelligent infinity. We know that we use indigo to contact intelligent infinity. But the positive being uses blue as well. But we don't know if the negative does also. So whatever. In positively oriented entities, the configuration is even, crystalline, and of the 7-ray description. So in the positive, everything's working, perfect. In the negative, they are accumulating all that energy there in their lower energy centers so they can access the indigo and contact intelligent infinity. And maybe use the blue, which it's hard to tell again because blue is honest communication. So if they're not honest, they're very dishonest. Are they distorting it? I don't know. It's an enigma. So in any case, it's different. It's not. In the red, it's equal. In the rest, it's different. And we have explored this already, so I'm not going to go much deeper into this. That's it. That's all we have into session 39. I covered it completely. The last question was, as usual, is there anything that can be done to improve the contact or make the instrument Carla more comfortable? And Roger says, later, Adonai, we're out. That's it. Conclusions. We explored a couple of things. One, the obscurity of spirituality. Obscurity in the sense of how confusing it can be, complex. And also the energy centers. So let me address first, those are the two things that just came out from this session to me. The obscurity comes from Gautama used to say, don't get involved in metaphysics, man. You don't need metaphysics. Your metaphysics is that you are the creator, or that you are everything. They didn't even say the creator. You are everything. You are the creation. You're the universe. That's it. Why do you want to complicate it? Because I have these views and this and that and blah, blah, blah. That's great. That is your game. But if you're seeking enlightenment, complicating it is, you can't complicate infinity. It's infinity, so that doesn't mean that we cannot explore as we do, with the raw material. But this is where I even say the whole raw material, once you get it, you don't need this. This is all, in several sessions I've said, like, listen, if you can get this, I think I said it in session, actually very appropriate and synchronistic. In session 27, when I talked about intelligent infinity, I believe I said, if you get this, you should close this book, unsubscribe from my channel, forget about everything, and just go and explore the world, because you're in intelligent infinity. You are everything. And so I'll say it here too. If you get this, you don't need to. This is entertainment. This is spiritual entertainment for us who like to explore these things and like to talk about it. This is fun. This is like music. We're playing music with words here. And the purpose of music is no purpose. It's just, it's just music. It's just playing. It's moving us. Dancing is the same thing. You don't have a specific spot that you want to reach, or a specific, form or pose, whatever. So in the same way, this whole obscuring of spirituality, and you have to work, you have to do a lot of spiritual work, is what they say. Well, yes, if you have to, we can get into so much stuff here, but for me to understand this, I need to go through that. I think we can simplify it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that we can simplify it to have our compass, directed towards the north. I mentioned Zen Buddhism. Zen Buddhism in Japan had a very particular use, because this is a society that is very strict and ritualistic and very, stern and all, stiff. They needed Zen Buddhism to tell them, relax, it's all a game. You're playing a game. You can go play it. You will have to play it. Hinduism is the same thing. When they had the 4 stratas, where you would have this, what do they call it? I forgot what they're called. Stratum. That's what I mean. They because we need to make society work. That's it. You go, you play the game, and then you become Shramana. That's the man or the woman that just went out into the wilds and said, bye-bye, I'm going back into nature where I came from, and I'm just going to forget that humans have a civilized way of things, So, we should always work with that in mind and in heart. So, all right, that's my contribution. Don't think it's complicated. It can become complex if we want to have fun, but it isn't. It's just simple. And then the energy center is just another way of complicating things to see how we can see ourselves, you know. And then you can go and say, oh, now I see why I was afraid of this, or this is why I always loved this, or this is why I always wanted to paint or make music. It's my blue, it's my green, it's my orange, you know, it's a beauty. You know, we are a work of art of the Creator. So that's it. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the comments that you guys leave me. You guys are amazing, really. You know, I'm talking to anybody who leaves a comment. Those who don't leave a comment, then I'm not talking to you. So leave a comment so I can know you. You know, I am able so far, so I don't have that many subscribers, to remember each and one of you whenever you repeat comments. You know, and it's fascinating to see you guys go through the raw material and, you know, interact with you, answer your questions. So I'm really glad that I have this audience. I said it in my other video, being grateful and so on about this whole change in my life. And I'll say it here again, you know, thank you, especially if you're here after an hour of watching me. Even if you did a segmented, I'm still grateful. You listen in a cumulative whole hour in your life, and I appreciate that. But yeah, you guys are awesome. You know, the audience that I was first, you know, kind of afraid that I was going to have, you know, kind of people am I going to get, you know, I'm going to get crazy people, you know, looking for metaphysics or whatever. I don't know. I just didn't know what I was getting into. And it turned out to be you. You know, you guys are just incredible. You know, the things that you mentioned, some of the comments that you guys leave me are just like, wow, you know, this is amazing. You know, you should be on the show. So, all right. With that, again, anything else you can get in the description box. You can get, again, Colby's new album. It's free. Go get it. It's free. Go get it. Go listen. Expand your consciousness with Colby's beautiful harmony of how he perceives the universe. And links, all the description is there too if you want to support my channel as well. And I'll see you then now in session 40. If I didn't say enough, thank you. I love you. Keep being there.